Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. If you enjoy our show, don't forget to help us out by subscribing to this podcast, sharing it with a friend, and providing us with a review on iTunes. Check out the show notes below for the link. Thanks, and enjoy the show.
In today's podcast episode, we're going to talk about the biggest and best news regarding the Big Four accounting firm PwC for the month of November 2017. And the reason we are doing this is to provide you with the details of all the important news that happened to PwC without you having to search around the internet. And the way we'll be covering this is we'll be going over a high-level summary of the news on this podcast. And you can get more details by visiting our website, big4accountingfirms.com, and going over to our blog to check out our detailed post about the PwC November 2017 news. And we also encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter on our website to receive further notifications for future news about PwC and the other Big Four firms, because we're going to be doing these monthly summaries every month for every one of the Big Four firms. And we'll also be creating an ebook each month where we summarize the consolidated news for the Big Four firms. Again, that's big4accountingfirms.com, and you can subscribe to our newsletter in the sidebar of our blog. And we'd also encourage you to subscribe to this podcast because we'll still be covering news on this podcast as well. Okay, let's get down to the news for PwC. First, let's talk about the media coverage, and then we'll talk about partnerships and acquisitions that PwC made in November of 2017. So some of the media coverage that came out about PwC was an article in Forbes, where Forbes covered what PwC is currently doing in the artificial intelligence space. And Forbes explained that PwC uses sprints to plan out their artificial intelligence solutions, and they do this by what they called sprints. And these sprints are workshops where they come up with ideas and implement them throughout the year. And Forbes didn't really talk that much about PwC here. They talked about the other Big Four accounting firms like Deloitte and Ernst & Young and how they used artificial intelligence. But what this is good at showing is showing how what the Big Four are doing right now, artificial intelligence, is coming up with solutions and planning solutions for clients. There's no one definite solution that clients want. The Big Four are currently in the space and planning out solutions for their clients. Okay, the other big news this month regarding PwC was that PwC started accepting Bitcoin this month. And they started accepting Bitcoin out of their Hong Kong office. And this is a bit shocking because Bitcoin has a negative connotation with it, as it's often associated with money laundering and the black market. And I think it will take a while for Bitcoin to be used in the US by PwC just because of it has this negative connotation. And a lot of people have been saying that they think this is a nod to blockchain being adopted by the Big Four, but I think it more relates to the popularity of Bitcoin and Bitcoin being in the news, as the value of Bitcoin has recently run up over $11,000 per Bitcoin. Okay, another news story this month regarding PwC was about their US CEO, Tim Ryan. And he's been really active in talking about diversity and diversity in the workforce. And he's been championing a lot of diversity causes. And he's out there again in November championing diversity. And he's trying to get signatures for a cause that he's championing. And this cause is the CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion program. And you can learn more about this at ceoaction.com. And what he's trying to do is trying to get CEOs to commit to advancing diversity and inclusion in their workplaces. And he started out by asking for a few signatures from 40 CEOs, and he thought he would only get about 25 of them to sign his measure, but he ended up getting way more, over 100 signatures. And now what he's looking for is signatures of all Fortune 1000 CEOs. So if you're a CEO out there, then you can expect to see Tim Ryan knocking on your door asking for a signature. And again, if you want to learn more about what he's doing there, visit ceoaction.com. Okay, another piece of big news during November for PwC was that they're closing several of their offices in Ireland. And this has many people in the UK worried that PwC is laying people off, but they said that they're not laying people off and they're just consolidating offices. And what I found really funny about this story was that Grant Thornton and some of these locations where they're closing offices offered to hire PwC employees. So that's one bright spot about this piece of news. Those are some of the biggest news stories for the month. We're now going to talk about the partnerships that PwC entered into November, as well as a couple of firms that they acquired in November. But before we do that, I wanted to give you a quick reminder. Make sure again to go visit our website, big4accountingfirms.com, and go to our blogs. Also check out the show notes to this podcast to get the link to that article. Now let's move on to the partnerships that PwC engaged in during November. One of the partnerships they engaged in was with Tinkerbell. And Tinkerbell is a creative agency in Melbourne, Australia. And PwC decided to invest in this creative agency 2 months after it was created. And the reason they're investing in this is because PwC is getting into other professional services other than accounting. And this one's more marketing and advertising and, creative design. And other firms like Deloitte have been acquiring creative agencies, but PwC is just investing in it here. And they said that they're investing in it because they don't feel like they need to own the firm in order to participate in this market. Another partnership that PwC entered in this month was with a firm called Beyond Analysis. And PwC partnered with this firm in the UK. And what Beyond Analysis helps with is they help their clients visualize the data. And in accounting, that's very important. There's a lot of data, a lot of financial statements, a lot of numbers, but people don't really get to analyze it very well. And one of the things that helps people analyze information is visualizations. And visualization is very popular in the Big Four right now. And one of the more common solutions is something called Power BI, which is built into Microsoft tools. And we have a video of that in the blog post on our website, so make sure to check that out. But one thing you can learn from this partnership is that PwC and other Big Four are getting very involved in data visualization tools. Okay, and then PwC had a couple of acquisitions in November, and both of the acquisitions were Salesforce consulting firms. And the first Salesforce consulting firm was C Decisions out of the UK. And what this means is that these companies, they help with implementations of Salesforce, and they help their clients utilize Salesforce, which is a cloud-based sales and marketing solution. And the Big Four are getting very involved in this space. So that's why PwC acquired them. And C Decisions already had a lot of clients in the UK. So it was sort of a win-win for PwC. And another acquisition for PwC was a firm called Agilitude in South Africa. And the reason they acquired Agilitude, again, is a Salesforce consulting firm. But this was the premier Salesforce consulting firm within South Africa. And they had clients not only in South Africa, but all over Africa. So this really set PwC apart in the African market for Salesforce consulting. So in conclusion, you can see a few things through these news stories for PwC. You can see that they are heavily investing in new technologies like data visualization, artificial intelligence, Bitcoin, blockchain, and Salesforce. And the most concrete of these obviously being Salesforce, as PwC is actively acquiring those companies. What you can parse from this is that if you're looking at an opening in the Big Four, you'll see a lot of openings for Salesforce. And this is because Salesforce is something that clients want, is becoming very popular as clients look to increasing their sales and marketing solutions to their customers. So if you're not wondering what space is hot in the Big Four right now, Salesforce is very hot. And another thing you can learn from these stories is that with PwC and the Big Four in general is diversity. And diversity measures are not going to stop. And Tim Ryan, he's the CEO, and he's out there pounding the pavement, getting signatures for diversity awareness and action around diversity. So that's something else to keep in mind as you're going through your Big Four career. And another common thing that we've seen in these news stories and other Big Four is that they're heavily investing in other professional services, and they're doing this by acquiring firms. And in this case, PwC just invested in a creative agency, but we've seen in other firms like Deloitte where they acquired Deloitte Heat, which was an advertising agency. So that's the other thing the Big Four are doing. They're moving towards all professional services and not just accounting or consulting, but all professional services like marketing and other areas. So again, this was the PwC biggest news for November. And we'd like to encourage you to go to our website, read the article for more details, but also subscribe to the newsletter so you can get these monthly reports for the Big Four and the ebook we're going to be releasing monthly that summarizes all of these news stories.
We appreciate your help in growing this podcast so we can continue to bring you the best Big Four content possible. You could help us out by providing a review on iTunes, sending us an email with your comments, and don't forget to share with your friends. There's a link below in the show notes. That's our show for today. Thanks for listening and have a great day.